first and foremost, guys, season 2, episode 9, Beast Morphers is back. Let's talk about this. I really enjoyed this episode. I was kind of wondering, after the cliffhanger that we had towards the end of the first half of season 2, I was really wondering where they were going to go ahead and jump into. And the fact that we already got Dr. K on our first episode back blew my mind. I mean, they certainly were not holding back any punches whatsoever. For me, this really just sort of sets the tone sort of going forward for the remainder of this season. I mean, they took themselves pretty seriously for the most part. I felt like they had their mission in mind, with the exception of Ben and Betty popping in here for the most part, which, while I wasn't the biggest fan of maybe the comedic skit at the beginning of those two, where you see Ben trying to drill into the freaking ice, outside of that, I thought they actually came in pretty good hand here for Devon to certainly help him out, finding the split emitters, even doing their part to set things up accordingly and not messing things up to certainly help Devon out. So while I definitely do give Ben and Betty some slack, I feel like every once in a while in how they're utilized, because I'm just not the biggest fan of the comic duo, I thought, despite maybe the little comic aspect of things, they did a really good job here this week and actually being useful and coming through for the team when they certainly needed to. So I thought that was pretty cool on their part. The only thing that really always throws me off whenever we do get Ben and Betty, why do we always get that wonky sort of comedy music? Boom, ba-dum, bing, bum, bing, bum. Like, what? Like, you go from like a serious conversation with the commander talking, yeah, we've got this brand new hyper freeze bow arrow, and here's our plan that we're gonna do, and then Ben and Betty, boom, and I'm like, it just really kind of takes me out of the scene. It just feels, I don't know, it just comes out of nowhere and just cuts through just the vibe and the tone that they've kind of set for the episode, and just kind of throws me off, unfortunately. But once that's out of the way, the rest of this episode is just straight through, man, and I absolutely loved it. So let me go ahead and pull up my notes here, because I did want to go ahead and take some notes. So we do see here that the commander is in fact shutting down the morphing grid to avoid Evox getting his hands on it. Apparently, Evox is super dependent on it, on the idea of Morph X, because of the fact that now that he has human DNA spliced with him, it is currently weakening him. So Nate does come up with this great idea for a hyper freeze arrow, which he has in fact combined a couple of the blasters that they wind up having here to create the Beast X Ultra Cannon. And I will say this, Abraham Rodriguez, who plays Nate, he actually did go on Twitter, and just to remind everybody that this weapon was the heaviest prop that they've had on set, sort of thing. You could see Abraham just struggling to kind of lift it up and get it ready to aim at Evox. So no joke, he definitely isn't playing around. It definitely seems like it's the heaviest prop that they really have. So his idea is his plan is to freeze Evox in place, but you know there's going to be some pushback towards that particular plan, right? What happens to Mayor Daniels? And this is exactly where Devon certainly comes in. And I continue to love the relationship between Devon and Mayor Daniels here. I think they've been doing a really good job of just pulling heartstrings when it comes to Devon, especially with the realization that his father is Evox. As his son, you clearly know he's going to do everything that he certainly can do to save his father. And the idea of just freezing the Evox in place kind of leaves a big question mark to Devon, like, well, what about my dad, right? So I love the fact that there is sort of an added tension between the team here. The fact that Devon's like, have you guys completely forgot about the idea that my father's trapped in here? Where you've got Nate, who I'm pretty sure has a ton of stress on him also to kind of come up with some answers from the commander, from Grid Battle Force, like, hey, we need ourselves a plan here. So I love just that added tension. Like, I don't think Nate's like a complete dick when he's just like, oh, well, you know, I've been busting my ass, you know, so many. He didn't say that. Good. If Nate said, man, I'm busting my ass on Nickelodeon, bravo, Abraham, that they even let you slip in that line. But that's definitely not the case here. But I get the idea of Nate being stressed, like, hey, man, I've been working hours to try and come up with this plan, and I can't think of anything else at this time. So I certainly get the tension between those two, but the tension is always there where they're very understanding of each other, right? Like, even towards the end, when the plan is ready to go ahead and happen, and everybody's got to leave to go ahead and find Evox at, I think it's Morphex Tower 5. I think it is important that even before they leave to go on this mission, they do stop and just talk to Devon and be like, hey, we have our plan, but do you have an alternative plan, right? So I like the idea that they're at least open to it. They at least give him the time that he needs to kind of come up with his plan. So I really did love that addition to this week's episode. The idea that there is tension among the team, but everybody's very much understanding and on the side of Devon, like, hey man, this is our last resort. But if you've got an answer, please, come through with it. Come through with it. I will say this: I did think that the plan at first was a little wonky. Like the idea that they put out like this tanker full of Morph X. And then when Blaze and Roxy come in, they take it. And then we've got Commander like just out loud talking about the idea like, oh, the Morph X Tower 5 is completely full sort of thing. I'm like, why are you telling the whole world your plan here? Now Scrozzle absolutely knows it. And the next thing I know, I'm like, oh, Adam, you're just an idiot. You got to let things play out, Adam. You got to let things play out. They don't seem as stupid when you go back and realize, oh, it was actually all a decoy in the entire time. This is part of the plan itself. So it actually worked out for everything. Listen, quick honorable mention, guys. Great original fight sequence here between Steel, Nate, and along with Blaze and Roxy. All original footage. They really highly push that in here, with the exception of maybe like the Zoe, Ravi, and Devon using their power-ups to go ahead and face off against Bulldozer Guy, and then the Zord battle. Everything else, for the most part, was original footage. So I definitely did appreciate that. Speaking of Devon here, besides the fact that I absolutely love the relationship that they've built between him, especially going back to just some of the flashback sequences from season 1 of the mayor and Devon working alongside, having that father and son sort of time, just pulls at the heartstrings, man. Like if anything, you just really want Devon to certainly succeed in saving his father. And I honestly did not expect that to happen this early. Well, I can't say it's this early, right? I mean, it is the beginning half of season 2, so we are pretty much in the middle of things as of right now. So it certainly makes sense, but I definitely enjoyed just those flashback moments, building up that emotional level for the payoff towards the end of this episode, where we do see that it winds up happening. But this is where we get our crossover finally with Dr. K. It was one of those things I felt like everybody kept asking me, Adam, like, are we getting Dr. K? Like, nobody's talked about it. They didn't hype it up in promotion. They definitely didn't do any marketing for it, really kind of making it sort of as a surprise. We had been seeing a ton of stuff come out for the Dino crossover, but the one aspect of news that we had heard nothing about was Dr. K. But Olivia Tennant is in fact back in this episode, and I absolutely loved it. This, for me, from the Dr. K crossover here to just the Power Ranger vault that we wind up seeing Nate having, I love what this show has just done in regards to bringing everything sort of full circle. I'm a big sucker of continuity, connectivity. So things of like what they've done in the MCU, seeing what they've done from just Boom Studios and things like that, from creating all these dimensions, interlacing things together. I love that type of stuff. That's what really gets me nerding out, to be quite honest with you. So to see Dr. K and Devon doing his research, right, trying to figure out ways to help his father, going back decades, finding Dr. K's information, even bringing up Dylan, the Black Ranger from RPM and stuff. I thought it was so cool, just for even Devon talking to Ravi, saying like, hey, we haven't heard from Dr. K in over a decade, which makes sense considering the fact that RPM came out in 2009, and that would have been 10 years ago when this particular episode was actually filmed in 2019. So I love the fact that they are at least keeping the time frame here in according to when the series itself was actually released. So that was pretty cool also. But just to see the conversation between Dr. K and Devon, her even bringing up past Dino Charge episodes, right? Mentioning Xeno Wing and Doom Wing and how they were in fact split apart or separated with the split emitters and stuff like that. I truly loved just hearkening back to all the past seasons of Power Rangers, and not just referencing them, but also giving us some great goodness and just Easter eggs to kind of point out in this episode with the Power Ranger Vault. I thought it was so cool to see just past blasters and morphers. I mean, from MMPR blasters to the Ninja Steel swords and blasters, Mystic Force morphers. I mean, there's so much eye candy just in this like brief 2-minute scene. definitely have to go back and just rewatch it and just pick out a ton of stuff. I mean, because it was all in there, man, and I absolutely loved it. Just eye candy and fan service, and it works out. It's just one of those great ways of being able to wrap up your entire trilogy, not trilogy, but your whole entire series and franchise into one season here in Beast Morphers, and I think they've done a really good job of embracing that, embracing past seasons, and making us all understand that yes, it is in fact sort of all connected. So I really enjoy that. But I want to know your thoughts, guys. If there's anything in particular that you were maybe surprised to see in the Power Ranger vault, definitely go ahead and let me know what you were certainly thrilled to see out there also. But that was pretty neat. Dr. K's cameo, brief but always fun, right? Like I don't need when we do cameos and stuff, I don't really need them to have that big of a presence or be around all episode long. But if they just have an important role, even if it is just for a couple of minutes, I'm completely on board with it, guys. I'm completely on board with it. So absolutely loved it, to be quite honest with you. I thought that one of my favorite shots in here was easily Evox freezing the hyper freeze arrow coming his way, doing his best sort of Kylo Ren impression. If you remember from The Force Awakens, when Poe winds up trying to shoot him with the blaster, and he turns around and he just like stops the blaster sort of mid-air. That's what this scene harkens me back to. It does make me wonder if like Simon Bennett, who's directing this, if maybe he got inspiration from that for that shot, or if maybe if the writers got some sort of inspiration from that particular scene when they were doing it, because I thought it was pretty neat to see Evox just one sort of step ahead of the Rangers to go ahead and do that. But talk about a big win for the Rangers here, for again, Ben and Betty to come through for Devon to have that sort of moment of hesitation, which clearly was just all a plan, right? But to see Evox's sort of last attempt to try and get past Devon by pretending to be, Mayor Daniels, and really again pluck those heartstrings of Devon. He thought he had the upper hand here, but clearly Devon certainly had a plan. And I do again love the fact too that Nate, despite only having that one plan in mind, is man enough and big enough to recognize who really sort of saved the day here, who really came together with the plan, and that was in fact Devon. So again, the chemistry here with this cast, I absolutely love seeing these returning faces. Were just absolutely brilliant, and I just think that they've done an amazing job with just their characters, and just really creating something for themselves, and just kind of see again the tension that was built up in here, but the understanding between these characters, I think really goes a long way in truly understanding who each of these characters are. So overall, guys, kudos to Beast Morphers for a fantastic episode, just coming out of the gates, just swinging and knocking it out of the park, guys. I was really impressed here, and to be honest with you, I cannot wait for the remainder of this season. I truly can. Again, I think this is certainly a great episode to not only begin on, but also to really set the tone as to where we're going to be going here, because it seems as though they're definitely getting even more serious, more original footage, and more original storytelling. And for me, I think that's just going to make for a brilliant remainder of the season. But guys, at the end of the day, these are just my A+ opinions. I want to know yours though. So please definitely go ahead and let me know your thoughts in the live chat, or if you're joining us after the live stream, in the comment section box below, ladies and gentlemen. And if anything, I'm probably going to go ahead and post this review separate, because our A+ Morphinominal episodes weekly, we do tend to go like 2 hours plus sometimes with just some of our topics and conversation and things like that. So I am going to go ahead and separate this particular review into its own video later on today, guys. So if you want to come back just to rewatch the review, you certainly can go ahead and do so on its own video, or just here in our weekly episode. So definitely go ahead and do that, guys. So again, definitely let me know your levels of excitement for the return of Beast Morphers, ladies and gentlemen. And again, don't forget, if you want to go ahead and submit your live viewer question, guys, go ahead and submit them over to aplusmorphinominal@gmail.com. You can send them over today or anytime during the week, and I'll definitely go ahead and get highlighted at the end of each of our episodes.